are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business. Thank you for tapping into Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. I'm your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. Hey, Tami. She is a Grammy-nominated songwriter and publishing executive who launched her own publishing entity called Mezzo Agency, a full-service music company that provides services for songwriters, artists, and producers in areas such as catalog management, metadata enrichment, label services, royalty collection, creative and music licensing. Back in 2018, she also represents a number of chart-topping clients who've worked for Lil Baby, Mulatto, Young Thug, Queen Naija, City Girls, Nicki Minaj, among many others. I have had the privilege of getting to know Tami as we're both in a very niche sector of the music industry, and thus we can relate on many different levels, wouldn't you say?
Yes, really.
She just exudes big boss energy, so I knew I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Tami LaTrell to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, and I'm just so grateful to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here, girl. Thank you so much for the introduction.
Of course. I'm doing fantastic. I'm just looking forward to getting to know you and learning more about your journey, about how you've become now not just a publishing executive, but an entrepreneur and CEO of your own entity.
Thank you so much.
So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led you to becoming the CEO of your own publishing entity.
Well, yeah, I started off back in high school over 20 years ago, singing and songwriting. I knew I always wanted to be in entertainment. At that time, my focus was being an artist. So I would be at all the talent shows. I was with girl groups. I was performing at different shows and opening up for bigger acts in my hometown of Houston, Texas. Shout out to H-Town. And so, yeah, I continued to work and I ended up going into a recording agreement with an independent company in Houston at the time and signed as an artist and was working on my project, my first album. So I'd written all these records and eventually I started seeing that we weren't in alignment, the record label and myself. It was just really starting to get uncomfortable with certain things that I had witnessed and I just didn't want to be a part of. I also kind of felt like the direction they were going, I didn't really see how I fit. And so I spoke about it and I was considered the one who always has something to say or always has a question about something. And I'm like, that's normally what a person should do if they're looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
So some people may put you in that category like, oh, she's a bit of a problem child, or she's always asking questions and stuff like that. But whatever, that's where at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. And that's exactly what I did. So I made a decision to walk away, left the label, the termination agreement was sent. I was released and I moved on. I accepted a full scholarship at my alma mater, Texas Southern University, home of the Mighty Tigers, class of 06. And so I started going there. I had a full scholarship and was like, I'm trying to figure the whole music thing out. But until then, I'm just going to go to school because I know my mom wanted me to get my degree. And so literally my freshman year, the following year, I got a phone call from my mother and she tells me that Whitney Houston is on the radio singing one of my songs that I had written a year prior. And
which song was it?
It's called What You Looking At. It was her first single off of her album, Just Whitney. Yeah.
Not the legend. Oh my gosh.
It was like so many mixed emotions, right? It's like, what? Confusion? How? Questions? Then it was like, seriously? Like, yes, But the ultimate question was like, first of all, how did she get my song? Second of all, how was I not included? And then third was like, wait a minute, shouldn't I be getting paid off of that? And
Facts.
so I'm trying to track down the company that I was previously signed to and didn't really have much luck at the time. And so, I just started asking around to some of my peers and mentors in the business. And they were kind of like, well, I mean, if you technically were signed as an artist and you walked away, that does give the label the entire right to do whatever they need to do with the master. And I was like, yeah, but I wrote the song. And
Right.
so I still should be compensated for something. And so it was kind of like that conversation, like, girl, you might just have to bite this bullet. I mean,
Oh
you live and
no,
learn.
no. You have no idea like how things are gonna turn out. You always think that they have your best interest at heart, but it's really like you have to go in for yourself.
Yeah. So I come from like that. I'm proud of that. I embrace it. And so I just was kind of like, in this situation, I wasn't backing down.
Right.
So I talked to one of my mentors and I was like, well, I still own the rights to the composition. I registered the copyright for all of my songs. And
Okay.
so, yeah. And so then the conversation changed because it's
I
like,
bet.
oh, well, yeah, if you own the rights, then yeah, technically you do have the rights. And so after the first time I attempted to reach out, I wasn't getting any phone calls. But once the word started traveling, like,
Traveling.
no, she owns the copyright to this song,
Mhm.
then that's when the phone started ringing. And so I was able
Mhm.
to meet up with the CEO. We had the conversation. It was amicable, it was respectful, but I still was standing my ground. Like, look, what can we do?
Mhm.
Obviously, I'm not going to be included on the fee, and I, of course, can't meet Whitney.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
Arista has already released this record. It's very controversial right now because of everything that she was going through at the time. God rest her soul. And so, yeah, they ended up getting me on the phone with Arista. And, after we did the three-way call and we worked out the splits amicably amongst myself, the CEO, the producer, and Whitney, then it was like, okay, we good. And so
Wow.
those royalties still pay me to this day. That publishing still pays to this day. And I'm forever
Shout
grateful for
out to
the
publishing royalties. Yes.
I'm still grateful for that to this day because I was able to use that as a lot of leverage for me to land a major publishing deal under Big John Platt at EMI Music Publishing at the time. And
Wow.
from there, my career just, started taking off. I was working and building and creating with so many other talented songwriters and producers that were considered that elite part of the music industry. Big John would throw these huge conferences where all the record labels, he would fly us out and all the record labels would come to us and do these presentations about the type of artists, the type of songs that they're looking for their artists, the type of material they need, and just kind of pick our brains on different types of ideas and concepts to really help their upcoming releases. So we were very sought out, and it really opened up my eyes that the idea of creation on the back end of being in the studio and creating at the genesis of a song is really impactful and important. And songwriters and producers are very underserved, but we are the most
Absolutely.
valuable.
Yes.
Yes. So, all of that brought me to getting my publishing deal, traveling, getting more placements. I wrote also for Keisha Cole. I did a song called Falling Out that I wrote on her Just Like You album. Yes, love that song. And man, it's so crazy how the song came about because I originally wrote it for Brandy. So how it
Oh.
ended up on Keisha's project,
Huh.
yeah, it was just a whole story behind it. But everything happens for a reason, and it went platinum too. So that was like my second platinum plaque, within a span of like 3 to 5 years. And then I wrote also and worked with Monica. Shout out to Monica. And I wrote a song called Anchor. And for her, it was on her last album, I think before she left RCA. But yeah, and I also have just done a lot of collaboration. I worked on Rotimi's mixtape when he was still with G Unit.
Shout out
Did
to
a song.
Empire.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he's with Empire now.
Yes.
Yeah, he's doing incredible. And then collaborated with so many other producers. You could imagine what the catalog looks like that hadn't got placed, right? Because you're just writing and
Right.
writing and writing.
Yeah.
But just working with super, super dope producers from Soul Shock and Carlins to Osinachi to Fat Boy to DJ
Wow.
Toon. I mean, the list just goes on and on. I've been exposed and built some great friendships over my entire career with even songwriters. You know, my mentor, God rest his soul, LaShawn Daniels, was like a big brother to me and taught me a lot of just being steadfast and having faith and not giving up. And it's just,
let's talk
it's just
about that a
amazing.
little bit. So, one of the reasons why I started the podcast is because, me coming up in the industry, I didn't really have too many women in the industry to really look up to or to ask the questions to, how to present myself in the room, like what to talk about, what not to talk about, the right ways to kind of maneuver and present myself. So talk to me about, your mentors and some of the things, the lessons that you learned from them coming up.
I'm very observant. I'm a bit of a tomboy too. So I've kind of always played I play basketball. I'm competitive, always in sports, always top of my class. Just always wanted to have a lot of success and very ambitious and didn't see anything less than that. So I had friends that were guys for a long time, in addition to having my girlfriends. And I started seeing that the space that I was in music, like you said, it was not a lot of us. And so instead of me using that as a way that made me feel like, oh man, well, who do I go to? I really formed healthy relationships that allowed me to kind of sit back and watch and observe how they do business as men, things that they talk about, the things that matter to them, how they negotiate.
Important.
And that's very important. And another thing that I learned too, from some of my mentors is just really focusing on the bottom line. Sometimes we get so caught up in the minutia of everything that's happening that really is not what we need to focus on. We need to focus on the overall goal. And I learned that from Big John also. He was very clear about what it is that he needed. And so when he provided us with our song briefs and ideas and different directions we should go, even me observing him talking to other people, I learned from that, and I always have known that I have to always be the one that is the focus in the room. Sometimes you need to be quiet and just listen and learn. And so
dropping gems on them. Sometimes just sit and listen, sit back and just observe sometimes. Everything don't need a comment or,
Absolutely. I mean, and the key thing is intelligence. If you are going to say something, it needs to be something that's worth something, not just saying something because you want to be the spotlight in the room and you want all the attention on you. That becomes egotistical. It gets us nowhere, right? So that was what I was around. And I always carried myself with poise and confidence, but still new for me. So what do you do when you get in a room full of people who have multiple platinum albums and Billboard number ones and hits, and you're looking at executives from you seeing Puff in the room and you seeing Jay Brown in the room and you seeing L.A. Reid and Terry Lewis, he would just put these events together for us to meet other executives and to really get in their mind about what it was that they needed. So this was not a moment for it to even be about me. This is for me to learn and then take that information, store it and use it when necessary and when needed. And also, go back and deliver, because you can't be with the number one publishing company in the world if you're not delivering, right? I use that both on the business side and the creative, but I, of course, was focused mainly on creative at the time. But I learned about splits. I learned about, negotiations with my songwriter fees. And now I have an advocate for myself. I didn't have a manager. So, my publishing company, my co-pub deal, that was who I looked to for my advice and for, how everything needed to be structured based on what my obligations were to them as a part of the deal.
So important.
So I used that, and that's what I did. I just learned and I listened and just kind of stored everything. And I also made sure that I kept a positive attitude, even if there were times where I was criticized or they offered me different suggestions or perspectives, because that's also important too. You may not know everything and you may not have all the answers to everything. So if someone is giving you game, acknowledge it and be receptive. And so I learned over time to really foster those good relationships, stay in touch.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
life changes and people move and things
yeah,
happen, but just checking in and, seeing what they're working on and comparing what
yeah.
you have going on and seeing how y'all can collaborate and all that stuff. Back then we didn't have WeTransfer and
Such a good point because, yes, people are not stagnant. If they want to grow, they will continue to move on and do other things. And that's another opportunity for you, not only to just kind of like sometimes fill the spaces that become voids when they leave certain places, but also they have the opportunity to pull you up as well if they believe and see what you're able to contribute to their new projects or endeavors. So
Absolutely.
important to continue to stay in touch with those mentors that brought you up and to be a sponge. That's a huge point too, like to be able to sit, take in the information that's being given to you, and then being able to apply it, to your point about the execution aspect of it.
Absolutely. I learned a lot. I did. I really did. Not, didn't have a clue that it would, the other side of that business would kick in now that I'm on a different side of it. But, thank God for it, because all of those experiences led me to where I am today with Mezzo.
Not for that. Yes, I love it. So there are so many challenges that women of color face in the music industry. Can you describe for us one specific challenge that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I could say, as of recent, one of the challenges definitely was just realizing that I'm in a new space of business that is not as creative, but requires me to have discernment, use my intuition, listen, to that gut instinct, and also being able to have the eyesight to identify when things are very toxic and unhealthy. And I know, toxic has been such a trendy word that people have been using lately, but just like there are toxic relationships in personal lives, like if you're in a relationship with someone or if you have toxic friendships, you can also be in situations where it's toxic for business.
Yeah.
It's not serving you. It's not serving the other person. There's a lot of tension and just really unnecessary uncomfortability, right? And so I had a lesson, last year where, I really had to identify that there was just a lot of snake behavior going on behind my back. And
wow,
it was just really disappointing and also disparaging that people even had that type of energy. Cause, I look at myself like I'm really just a cool chick. Like I like I'm cool. I'm welcome.
I co-sign that. Like I said, the very first time I met you, we didn't really know each other very well, but
we just started like supporting each other, like, girl, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So I understand that for sure.
Yeah. So, and I'm all about collaboration. I'm all about being able to, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. You need me to promote this, I promote that. You need me to help you in this area. Hey, let me give you, the software that I use, or let me give you the sauce in this area because this will help you. Like, I don't look at anybody as competition. I think we can collaborate. We can grow together. You may have a part of your business that may help my business and vice versa, because we're just all uniquely different in our own light. And God gives us different gifts. It gives us different talents and things that are just not to be contained, but to also be shared.
Yeah.
But I've also known too that just like I have great relationships with men who have fostered, supported me, uplifted me, being a woman of power, a woman of substance, a woman who is, I am an alpha, and I will be able to speak up for myself when I think that being disrespected or being mistreated. But at the same time, if you are working with other men who don't really see you as valuable, but see you as like a pawn or someone that they can take advantage of, then you're also struggling to try to figure what the whole purpose of that business relationship is. You see what I'm saying?
It's so true. It's so easy because we are in a male dominated industry. it's oftentimes we have to fight for our seat at the table or create our own
Or create
table.
our own. Yeah.
And then also, if you are in the corporate world, being the only woman in the room is intimidating because you get those trope labels on you. The moment you decide to speak up or have some kind of different perspective to offer, then it's, oh, she's being combative, or
Oh my
she's being
God.
argumentative. And it's like, wait, no, I'm just offering another look,
Aggressive.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no, I just want to do my job the best that I can. And I respect you. So I anticipate that you also respect me and what I
Yeah.
can bring to the table. So, and then on top of that, in terms of like just being a woman, like we tend to want to be over accommodating, and that nurturing aspect of us too, which I think leads to the conversation about dealing with toxic energies. We tend to want to give people the benefit of the doubt and a little bit more leeway.
A little bit more time. Yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit more leeway. Maybe they're just having a bad day today. I'll try tomorrow.
Yes.
2-3 months pass, and it's just like, look, what are we doing at this point?
Yes.
Because I want to do business, right? Then I am before, I even got heavily into this side of the business on the music administration side. Like I said, I was still working as a creative, and I also worked in corporate America for 9 years at Radio One under Cat Hughes.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I worked in the Atlanta markets for 4 years. I worked in Houston market for 5 years, and was really able to build a whole creative digital department for all of our brands, all of our jocks and everything. And a lot of times I was always the only woman in the room. So thankfully, because of my experience with working with men in the music industry and having those healthy relationships and having them really see like, oh no, her work speaks for itself.
Yes.
I did come in with a bit of confidence, because obviously if I'm still being sought out and I'm still getting placements, then the direction that I'm going and what I'm doing is actually
working out. Something's working.
Yeah. So, and so transitioning into where I am now, if what I'm doing is actually working and songwriters and producers are entrusting in our company to help them get all of their business, taken care of and all that. If I'm going to be doing business with anyone, I want them to see the value, but also know that at the end of the day, this is working. So let's continue to do things that are productive and that are positive and that are going in the right direction. The minute there's resistance, the minute there is something that feels off, and at the end of the day, it comes down to paperwork. And so I just got exposed, and really, let me say, God exposed a lot to me about snakes in the grass. And so your intention, like my intention was pure. Of what I wanted. I was very clear on what I desired and what my goal for my company was. But a lot of times people will prey on that because they think because you may look young.
Talk about it. I
know I may not look it, but I'm going on 40 this year. Okay.
And,
so,
Black don't cry.
People will automatically think that, oh, she don't know nothing, she this, she that, but I'm going to speak up for myself if I feel like somebody's taking advantage of me or trying to play me or using other people to try to damage my situations and things like that. And because I
Sounds
do
like
acknowledge
narcissistic behavior.
Oh my God, girl, that'll be a whole nother show. So we're not even gonna, but yeah, that narcissistic personalities. And there are women who can be narcissistic as well. I think none of us are perfect. We all are a work in progress. But if you can see, and this is for anyone listening, if you could see that there's constant, all this passive aggressiveness and just unnecessary tension, unnecessarily trying to create a problem when it really just doesn't have to be that way. If we just sit together like adults and have honest conversation and communicate, man, it saves us so much time. And so that got revealed to me. It costed me a lot of money. It costed me a lot of time, resources, and unnecessary energy that I could have been preserving and using for something else. And so that was the lesson. It was never a loss. It was definitely a lesson. Only lessons, right? And so I'm just grateful that I was able to identify that. And then ultimately God kind of shifted a lot of things to where we were all amicably able to move forward separately. But
that part is important too, to
yeah,
recognize when it's just not working out, cut your losses, and
hey,
sometimes you could
people
do better
build
most of the time on your
and break
own. Like,
all the time. Yeah, some things
yeah,
work and some things don't. This is not
yeah,
personal. This is business.
yeah.
And so that was one thing that got exposed last year. So I learned it very quickly. I've only been in this, I've been in publishing all my life, obviously since 2002, but the business and the politics of publishing, it's only been about 3 years. Our company just turned 3. We made 3 years in December.
Yeah, that's something that I've struggled with as well. Like, just trusting your intuition and learning how to just say, you know what, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
And be okay with the fact that some people are just not going to like you. Some people are just going to envy where you are because they haven't been able to put the effort into building themselves up, and they're just kind of riding your coattails until it no longer serves them. And yeah, sometimes you have to, it's usually people with the ray of light that just shines and emanates from them that people want to leech onto them and take their power,
Oh my God. And that's another thing too. Like, I show up as my best self every day.
Yes. Yes.
And that takes a lot of work.
Yes,
I went through a very unhealthy, toxic relationship prior to like end of 2015 up to 2018. And that relationship was necessary because of what I experienced last year. And I didn't understand it. I was just like, oh my God, woe is me. Why am I going through this? From getting a therapist, getting a life coach.
Talk about it. Shout out to therapists.
Having to really sort out this next stage of my life during that time, because, you can get in a relationship and lose yourself. And I had to like literally find my way back. Yes. And so once I eliminated that, learned from it, found my way back, it was like, okay, things are moving. But the work I had to do between that time of healing, personal development, understanding self-awareness, understanding situational analysis, emotional intelligence, integrity, character, discipline, being able to walk in a room and come in with confidence, but not be cocky.
Self-worth, like that.
Self-worth, like all of those things I had to develop within a short amount of time of healing. And so that work alone, not to mention being a mother, taking care of my daughter full time, her dad and I, we have joint custody, but he's in a different state. So that, primarily I'm her custodial parent. That's a whole nother dynamic. I hate saying single mother. I just hate that. But for what it is, I wasn't married at the time, we were already divorced, and I have her full time. So that energy of having to divide your time as a mother, having to divide your time working in corporate America, now you're going into entrepreneurship, and you're trying to heal emotionally, and you got to be careful with who you're dating and all that type of stuff. It was a lot. But last year, 2021, was the reason why I had to go through all of the work, because I was prepared to be able to keep my head up, have some dignity, say no, and walk away from the things that were no longer serving me, and be okay with saying, you know what, this is not where we need to be. If we're not going to be able to coexist in business in whatever capacity, there's no point of this. Like, let's just cut our losses
and move on.
This is what I owe you. I took care of it. Okay, cool. And let's just keep it moving. But some people are not good with letting go. Some people are not good with moving forward and moving on. And so that really has nothing to do with me. I have to focus on the matter at hand. And there's nothing more important than making sure that my writers and my producers are all taken care of. Their songs are organized and cataloged. Our pay sources are paying on time, because it's a whole nother story. They're understanding the business that we're in, and they feel comfortable enough to come to me and talk to me as a fellow creative, to have dialogue on what do I do, or how can I enhance, how can I become better creative, but also understand learning the business.
I mean, that's self-healing and seeking the help that you need to get through those and understand what your own triggers and shortcomings might be. are what help you to show up as your best self and for other people. So it's such an
Absolutely.
important aspect of just your personal development. And yeah, I'm an advocate for therapy. I've been seeing a therapist as well for similar
Yes.
reasons. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that too. Like we should
Sure.
talk about that at a later time. But
Yeah.
uh, what was your mama I made it moment? The moment that you were like, you know what? I'm moving in the right direction. And what characteristics do you attribute to having reached that point?
I would definitely say the Whitney Houston monumental shift in my life. that
Yeah.
that placement, that placement was very shocking, purposeful. It was actually written in the stars for it to happen. And it was a catalyst that boosted the awareness of myself that I do have a gift. And now
Mm,
it's about learning how to nurture the gift and become better and to study and to try to be the best at it, right?
yes.
And so, being able to walk in the room and say, oh, yeah, I wrote for Whitney Houston. I mean,
Enough
it's so much
said.
that comes with that. I
Yes.
forever am grateful for her. I hate that I never got a chance to meet her, just because of the
Mm,
circumstances and
mm-hmm.
how things happen. But Whitney is with me every day. Like
Yes.
I'm one of those type of people. Like I'm gonna bring in all the energy that I'm attached
Yes.
to. And
Yes.
so I've studied her as well. I've studied her interviews, even though the times that were good and the times that were not so good. But
Mm,
the reason why that's so important is because it shows you the journey of life, that you could be really at high peak or a great place in your life professionally,
mm-hmm.
but there are still some things that you as a just mere human, still has to work through. And
Yes.
her story alone, her journey alone, from the documentaries and the interviews and the other friends that I have that knew her personally, it really helped me to have compassion for people,
Mm-hmm.
because you just never know what people are going through. And
That's
I've
such a
always tried to
word.
I've always tried to lean into that when I see that there's something going on. I'm willing to have the conversation and be like,
Yes.
what? Close the door. Come
And
on, sit down.
it's
Let's
so
talk.
funny because I feel like when you reach a certain level of success, quote unquote, whatever that looks like for any individual person, you
Yeah.
start to notice the people around you sometimes they tend to change their attitudes towards you, and all of a sudden your life looks so perfect from the outside, but you're going through your
Yeah.
own issues and you have nobody to talk to about those things because even the people that you think are going to be supportive of you emotionally, they're not understanding how you could be complaining about something, when you've
Yeah.
got this and you've accomplished this and you're surrounded by these people. And it's like you're still human at the end of the day, and we all have our own challenges that we're facing and need people to understand, that we're still human beings.
Absolutely.
They're still human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then another thing I've learned too is that just because somebody else may change how they feel about you and view you, again, that is nothing to do with you.
Yes.
Because if
Say it
you show up
again.
as your best self and you really have a genuine, pure intention with being your best self, your
Mm-hmm.
real friends are going to appreciate you at your best and at your worst. They're either
Yes.
going to support and figure out what space they have to, fall back
Mm-hmm.
on, or support you and provide additional resources or help, or, call
Mm-hmm.
and checking in certain areas. But when you have, to me, a healthier sense about yourself and you've done that work, then, to me, your judgment also with the type of friends you attract changes.
Yes.
And so that means that who you used to be friends with, or who you used to, hang out with, or what you may have found as fun back then, fun may be a totally different type of fun now,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you've
You've
just
evolved.
evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm okay with that. I'm okay with understanding that, there's a reason, a season, or a friend,
Yes.
friends will be in your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime, people in general. But overall, I am very, very, very sensitive about
Mm.
my space, my energy, and I'm selfish with my time because I don't
Yes.
have a lot of it. I'm literally
I
on
bet.
a schedule every day, probably except the Saturday evenings and a Sunday, but Monday through Friday, from sunup to sundown, I'm on a schedule. So
Wow.
everything has to make sense. Everything
That
has
part.
to be of substance. And I don't allow my friendships, my genuine friendships, to be inserted into that. Like, if I'm talking to my girlfriends, we are scheduling time. We are cutting everything off. We're getting on each other's calendar so that when we
Yeah.
talk, it's about us and what we have
Yeah.
going on. It's not like, oh, girl, let me call you back. I got the. No,
Right.
I value my friendships and I respect their time and they respect mine. So we get on each
Yes.
other's calendar and we work things out. Even with my guy friends, you know, we'll schedule calls so that we have each other's undivided attention. That to
Yes.
me is respect. That to me is
Facts.
appreciation. You know,
Consideration.
we are
Just
all busy. Yeah, just be considerate, you know?
that is such
So
a word. You're absolutely right. And with someone as busy as you, with a schedule as tight as yours, it is important to manage the time, you know, and
yeah,
to give the appropriate energy and to be considerate of people and their time as well. Like that's something
absolutely.
that I'm still learning to manage myself, is because I want to be there for everyone. I want to say yes to
Yeah.
everything, you know, but at
Yeah.
the same time, you have to know your own limits, and you have to give yourself grace as much as you give other people grace.
Absolutely. And then it comes a point of time where, especially when you are on a mission, like I don't look at Mezzo as just, oh, this is my agency and I help songwriters collect their money. No, no, no.
Mm.
This is service for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was 17, 18 years old with just a hope and a dream to get in the music industry. And God blessed me with a placement with one of the biggest singers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, I was able to learn and get mentored and go through a journey of ups and downs and hurry up and waiting and traveling here and there and being disappointed and having huge points in my life where I was just like, oh my God. And also making a lot of money at a very young age. So
Mm-hmm.
when you've been exposed to that type of success, right? What can you do when you are, you know, transitioning and going into a new phase where your priorities are changing? It's time to serve and give back.
Yes.
You're talking about 20 years in the
Yes.
game of
Yes.
blessings. Do you understand what I'm
Yes.
saying? Yes,
Definitely.
I had some stuff that happened too, you know, had a few pitfalls and things that I've went through and endured, you know, like I was telling you earlier. But through it all, like I am blessed. And so because I
Yes.
am blessed, this is my way to serve and give back. So my songwriters and producers that are scheduling their free music business calls with us, they are learning about things that they did not understand, they had no clue about. We're finding the money that they didn't know they had. If they are new and may not have necessarily just, you know, been established or had a placement yet, but they're trying to, you know, understand the workings of the business side of the music, because they are also creative and they're doing a lot of things independently now. They know they have someone to call. They know they have a resource, an agency that is going to schedule a call with them and break everything down. And then we also offer the services that we know that they need.
Yeah.
And so why aren't there more companies like this? And there could be, I just don't know. I'm just
Well,
kind of
we
in
know
my,
why.
yeah,
For a lot of companies,
but
it's about the bottom line, and that's about it. You know,
yeah,
it's not
I
about the
mean, and that's
relationship.
cool. And that's cool. Bottom line, numbers, all that. We still have our bottom lines. We still have our quotas and stuff that we have to reach, but there's nothing wrong with being a resource and providing service. Because what happens is you have people that become loyal to you.
Yes.
They, you know, they come back. Even if I did a call with someone a year ago and I taught them so much and I don't hear from them until a year later. But when they come back, they probably already went and tried to get help from everywhere else and really saw, like, you know what, this was probably the best discovery call I've ever had, where someone really broke things down for me, and look at all the other people that this company is helping. Let me call them back. And I'll be
doing
honest
something
with
different.
you. Yeah, we have had so many people that we did calls with that have come back months later. Like we completely forgot about them. It's like, oh, yeah, we talked to you. So, and of course through referrals. Yeah, and referrals have been great. I have not had to run one ad on our company. And God has been so gracious to me, myself, my team. They're learning, they're hungry, you know, they're eager to learn about the business so they can help as well. And then just the wealth of talent that's coming through, just saying, look, I know you've been in the game for a minute, so have I, but I don't know this side of it. I need your help. Like, come on, let me sit down with you.
what can
Yeah,
happen when you step out on faith, and
absolutely.
you have the wherewithal and the belief in yourself to actually make it happen. But we do have to also acknowledge what we don't know and just allow the universe and God to kind of lead the way. And it sounds like to me that you've kind of paid it back
I
several times
surrendered.
fold. Yeah,
Yeah, I have surrendered. I have surrendered to trying to make something happen more so than flowing in what already is coming towards me.
Mm-hmm. I
You
love
got to go
that.
where
That's
the
so
love is.
inspiring.
You got to go where the love is. If there's resistance and friction and tension in this area of life, shift the dynamic and
It's not
focus on
meant
what
to.
is working. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the thing too. Like one of the lessons that I've been learning is that anything that's actually meant for you actually comes easy. You don't need to
Yeah.
work that hard at it. You know what I mean? If it's for you, it really just comes to you. So anything that is met with resistance or any kind of tension or negative energy, that's something to recognize as like, maybe that's just not for me, and be
Right.
okay with that. And let it go, and
Right.
let it lessons just kind of bring.
Right. And being okay with gracefully bowing out and saying, you
Yes,
know what? It's been real. It's
yes,
cool, but this ain't it. And I'm okay with it. And you're gonna be great. And I'm gonna be great. Like
yes,
everything is still gonna
with
be
love.
okay. With love. Some things just don't work. So, but yeah, I would say definitely this has been about service for me.
Yes. I have some more questions. Let's get into them.
Okay.
What advice would you give aspiring women of color in the music business? So like you've given a lot of advice already, but if there was one thing you could have told yourself, what would you say?
I hope I don't offend anybody by this, but we just have to keep it all the way real. Be strong-minded, meaning keep your wits about you. There's nothing wrong with you standing up for yourself. Also thinking from a place of, is this good for me?
Mm-hmm.
But secondly, keep your legs closed.
A word, ladies and gentlemen.
So at the end of the day, you have to have control of
Yes.
yourself first to know that it does not take you to disrespect yourself, give yourself up in a way that is, for one, private, that no one should have access to. Business and private have nothing, they're not in two different categories. So what are we talking about? And then if you are really good at what you do, you can lead with that, with your skill, your work ethic. Your personality obviously needs to be positive, powerful, respectful, having reverence for who's in the room also. But at the same time, you don't have to lead with your body. You don't have to lead with your sexuality. You don't have to lead with any of those things that to me are being heavily promoted today. I mean, I've never seen myself to be like anybody else. I don't have to. I just don't. And
yes. And this industry is very small that we work in too.
So it travels.
Yeah. When you lack the integrity and self-control, it does get around, sadly. And it's not the same repercussions for women as it is for men that get around in the industry. I mean, part of the misogynoir, like you said, of promoting the sexuality of Black women and denigrating them based off of what, them promoting their bodies. And then at the same time, we are in a space of self-promotion where there's a lot of skin being exposed on social media. There's a lot of like needing to be seen.
Yeah. Here's the thing. When it comes down to that being what your goal is, your goal is to use your sexuality to become, how can we say it? Maybe like some people have the intention to be an icon based off of their physical appearance.
A sex symbol.
A sex symbol. There you go. Guess what? Obviously, if that's what your goal is, then you have to lead with that. But if my goal is not that, right? I just want to be a successful songwriter and provide for my family, or I want to be a leading music publishing executive and help change the lives of songwriters and producers and also fight for our right and advocate for them. That has nothing to do with my sexuality. It has nothing to do with my body. And so that's why you have to know what you want.
Yeah.
And what it is that you're trying to be. What is it that you be? What is your goal? Because if I'm in a conference room, having a meeting with 4 or 5 different men, and I'm the only woman in the room, and our goal is to close a deal, that has nothing to do with how I look.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I can say there are ways to kind of finesse it too. Like if you are in a
it works to your advantage. It works naturally to your advantage, but that's another reason why we have to know who we are. Because obviously had several men in the business in all my life, trying to holla, trying to, whatever. But that to me, I've always looked for substance. And then I always have to be like, okay, well, that may be in it, what's in it for you, but that's not what it is for me.
Right. The strategy.
I'm trying to finish the song. I just want to finish the song. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or I am trying to close the deal. We just want to close the deal so the client is happy. All that other stuff, that's cool. But let me put you on pause real quick. Let's focus on, let's stay, and I actually walked away. I left Radio 1 specifically for that reason, because while I loved the concept and idea of working in radio and being around music all day and working in digital media marketing, I just got tired of the fact that there were a lot of men who just clearly had the wrong intentions with a lot of women that were around there. And I no longer wanted to even be around it. It was just very uncomfortable.
Trust me. One of my very first experiences in the industry was working at a hip hop label. And, I could be there. I consider myself a pretty stylish person. I've put myself together as well, but it's not like, to your point, I'm always there on a mission. I know what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And it's really about what I can actually provide, bring to the table that for me is more valuable than any physical asset that I have. But anyway, people aren't blind at the same time. They might take an interest in you, but it's whether or not they have the control to say, oh, I see she's doing a job. Oh, I see she's actually busy. Or even if they are interested in, talking to you on a romantic level, being, away from the office, or like not involving the professional side of things.
With the personal. Yeah.
I think there's a way to balance it. And I think one of the things that I kind of struggle with now is like, I have a newfound sense of confidence in myself and my body, and wanting to express it in a way that's like still very classy, but I like to have fun too. So I'm a senior executive, but I might come to the office in colorful clothing. I might come to the office, I work at a hip hop label, so it's okay for me to kind of come in with the jeans. But I've been places where that's kind of like, it's still a little too casual. So I think there's a way to do it. It's just a matter of like the way that you present yourself and the confidence as you walk into the room. Like if the message is, I want to be a sex symbol, probably like know your audience. Or you walk into the room like,
know your audience. If you're telling me that you want to be an executive, or you're telling me that you want to be respected in this industry in a role that requires you to be around a lot of men, then you need to know the type of environment that you're going to be around and carry yourself as such. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for, the rights to be able to do and dress and all that type of stuff. But if I don't want no one focusing on my boobs, if I don't want anyone focusing on my assets, then how you dress will also speak. It'll set the tone for that, because I can't hide. Some women cannot hide their shape. They can't hide what they have. It is there, but you can dress appropriately. You can dress with class so that that's not a distraction. Because here's the thing. You're only in control of you. You're not in control of what someone else does.
Fact.
But you have to determine if someone continues to be disrespectful, to be degrading, even when you're not trying, you're not even asking for that attention. Then you have to know when it is time to make a change. And That's just what it is. Like, I'm so cool with people being who they are. If you are a creep, you are just a creep, and that has nothing to do with me. I'm just gonna creep my way away from you. If you are honorable, respectful, you know how to communicate properly, we do good business together, that is who you are, then you know what, we're going to make a lot of money together. If you are at a place where everything is just about you and no, you can't hear what anybody else is saying, you know, you don't want to have, you're not open to the idea of having other perspectives, and you don't want to collaborate with other people. You know, if that is who you are, then great. That just is not in alignment with who I am. So continue to be that, but I'm going to exit stage right. And so that's the thing. I'm not in the business of changing people, but I'm very clear on who I am, and I'm very clear on what I want. And so when you have that, when that is clear, then everything that is not in alignment with it, you are able to make a choice. And thank God for choices. You are able to make a choice on whether or not
got choices, like E40 said.
Exactly.
All right, great. I love that advice, and honestly, like something that most people are not going to touch on. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because it is obviously very important and super crucial, especially as a woman of color, because you're sexualized either way. So
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm, and that's the thing. We're gonna be dealt with it anyway. So at least kind of just be clear on what it is that you want. Do you want that type of attention, or do you not? Okay, so then act accordingly, adjust accordingly, and keep it moving. You know, and so that's just not what I want for myself. And I'm not knocking anybody who does it. Like, shout out to all the women who are in their, you know, they're in their walk of doing whatever they feel that makes them feel confident. Some things just don't align with me, and I'm okay with that.
Yes. Know yourself at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Also, so we had already kind of touched on this too, but what are some misconceptions that people have about Black women in the industry? I know we talked already about like the aggression or what have you, but
yeah, I think because there are so many women who unfortunately have not yet discovered their worth, it has almost warped the minds of some men to think that the only way women are going to get ahead is by offering themselves, offering their bodies, trying to sleep their way into the business or sleep their way on up. I prided myself on, out of all of the men that I've ever worked with who were producers and all that stuff, I promise you, like, I prided myself off of knowing that I could walk in the room and there was no one during the reign of, you know, when I was working as a songwriter that could say, oh yeah, I had that. Oh yeah, he had that too. I was happy about that. So I've dated a producer.
It is kind of like a badge of honor, unfortunately. Like,
but it wasn't.
Know that you on there, you made it on your own. What do you call it? Cognizance, I think it's called. Recognizance.
Yeah, and you getting it based on your but based on your own merits, your work ethic. You know, it's something to be proud of. And so I'm saying all that because at the end of the day, I think that as women, it's just time for us to elevate and realize that, and you could choose to be whoever you want, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to get a certain result, then you really have to be accountable for what you're putting out there. And so unfortunately, we can't control how men think and what they perceive of us, right? But some of them think that all women are the same. And that's just how it is. And it's like, you'll get a rude awakening, you know, because not all women are that way. I also think that some men think that just because we are assertive and know what we want and have self-worth, that we have to be riddled with, oh, she's a bitch or she's mean, or especially women who are alpha women, right? Who we respect our boundaries, we maintain them. We expect others to also do the same. I look at myself also as a disruptor. So I'm not always going with what everybody else is doing. I'm always trying to figure out how to be innovative and how to bring something fresh and unique and different and creative, you know, and so men who are egotistical, men who are controlling, narcissistic, maybe just emotionally immature, because, you know, obviously age has nothing to do with maturity, or if they just have ill intentions, they don't work well with my type of personality. I'm also very direct. And so women who are direct who would rather discuss the issues as long as we can also discuss the solutions.
Yeah.
That may be, like you said, intimidating for men, and so again, I don't really have nothing to do with that. I can't do anything about how someone else takes it. I can just only be my best self. But I've had men who really support that. They're like, no, she's opinionated, but she's not disrespectful with it. She's just like any other thought leader who is also very experienced in what they do. And so she definitely has a right to be able to give an opinion. Those are my type of guys, because they are not intimidated. They actually, admire and appreciate that. And
shout out to the real men out there.
Yes. Shout out to them. But yeah, so and another thing too, another misconception is they think that some people may think that we're catty, that we can't play in the sandbox. I heard that on a recent show recently. You don't play well in the sandbox with other women. It's just such a lie. I
really
have,
is.
even in my worst times when I was going through some hard days, I had a core of women that I support, that also support me, who were there. They all have their own businesses and families and stuff. And it may not have been that they were there with me through every single thing. I mean, I'm an adult. I still have to take accountability for my own issues, but maybe they were there for me spiritually. Maybe they were there for me on the business side. Maybe they were there for me as far as like going with me on a spa day, a day of empowerment. Maybe they were there to just lend a good ear, or maybe we were there just to grab coffee and just kind of woosah away from it all. Maybe they were my travel buddy at times when I needed to get away from something. But basically, all I'm saying is you will have different women who are in your life at certain seasons, and you have to really see where the value is, and you have to nurture that, cultivate that. Keep it. They're all flourishing in their own right. So how can you be of assistance to them? Maybe it's not about you today, but it's about what you can do for them, how you can help them. Or maybe you have a bit of information that they need that's concerning something personal, that y'all just had that little powwow of talking. You're like, oh girl, I got you, girl.
I love that
right now.
The camaraderie the sisterhood is so real. And I think though what's necessary is actually, from your perspective, like having relationships with women already and understanding that we relate to each other in different ways. I think a lot of that cattiness attitude comes from when women don't want to work with each other.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Or they have this insecurity about other women being around that are more powerful, or might be more aesthetically beautiful, but character, and not having the esteem or sense of self-worth can really make someone insecure. So when they show up in a room of powerful, beautiful, dominant women, it's uncomfortable for them. And then they might not present themselves in the best way in that sense.
Yeah. And into that, I'm able to spot that really quickly. And I still like have compassion.
Yeah.
I think that's a moment. Yes. That's a moment for women who can spot that, to and still empower. Keep the door open and empower, and just be like, you can spot when the girl is on that, Yes. And so you can feel like, oh, she may feel a little insecure, not really trying to, whatever. Yeah. But girl, you know what? We all been there at one point in our time. I got you. I'm gonna still come and introduce myself. I'm gonna give you my card, and I'll follow you on Instagram or something like that, just so you can kind of like see, like I'm open to the fact that everyone is probably not always going to be like accepting of me and everything that I bring in the room. I'm open to that. But at the same time, people are just people. They're at different points in journeys of their life. And you may have already went through the journey of healing and all this type of stuff, and handling your insecurities, whereas others are still going through that process. And so again, we talk about compassion, right? The compassion and the patience that you have for your other fellow women. And this is not just with Black women, right? With women of color. This is even with our white counterparts. I have women that I'm friends with that are all different types come from all different types of nationalities, backgrounds, races. And you don't know what they were going through before y'all got on the phone, or before you met them for lunch, or before they walked in a room that's this huge networking mixer, and everybody is like kind of having their whole intentions in sight on who they want to talk to. You have no idea what that person just walked in with. And so I keep that in mind. And I just always try to stay open and receptive and understanding and compassionate, but overall getting the goal done. If it is for us to connect, then cool. If not, then I'm cool with it. But I'm never gonna be like, oh, she must got a problem with me.
Right.
So no,
That's so interesting.
I don't have
That's
energy.
honestly like, that's just probably the best way to describe it, is like, you can acknowledge someone when they're going through that because you see yourself in them too. Like, you've had moments like that. You've had times where you felt insecure in the room, or you weren't sure how you were going to deal with the energies there, and maybe you just didn't show up as your best self, so it's a little intimidating. I'm always like one of the first people to be like, "Yes, girl, you look good."
Hey,
you know what I mean? Like, to break the ice. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
yeah,
that serious. We're all
just be
trying to make
kind.
it out
Yes.
here.
Yeah, just be kind. Be kind. I
Yes,
have learned
yes.
I've learned being kind by understanding the type of energy that I received when I was not so kind.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'm
Mhm.
human. I have maybe had a bad day and made someone feel really bad behind maybe something that I did because I brought in some energy that had absolutely nothing to do with them. But
Yeah.
the energy
Yeah.
that you get back, or what you start feeling from it, it probably wasn't beneficial. You didn't close anything that day. Nothing
Yeah.
actually happened, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what were your intentions when you came in? Because you kind of had a little attitude. Like, I had to check
Mm.
myself. That's why
Yes.
self accountability is so important, because
For
at the
real.
end of the day, it keeps things clear. And
Mhm.
then you have to kind of choose, okay, where do you want to vibrate? You want to be here, full of positivity and, hey girl, good energy. Where is it that you would like to go? Do you like it? Do you enjoy being here? Do you enjoy what happens when you're here? And that's
Mhm.
that is what my journey has taught me, is to understand how I feel, how this makes me feel, being very, very high vibrational, being very positive.
Yes.
How
Check
do I
your
feel when I'm
vibration,
there?
y'all.
Yeah. How do I feel when I'm there? And then what goes on up there? Right? It's a lot of abundance up here. It is
Yes.
a lot
Yes.
of like support up here. It is a
Yes.
lot of good relationships, healthy, intentional success up here. But when
Mhm.
I'm vibrating really low
Mm.
energy, very, very critical of myself and others,
Mhm.
judgmental of myself and others, how does that make me feel?
Mhm.
What happens during that time is a lot of other stuff going on too that makes me feel uncomfortable. And so I just chose to really determine what I like to feel, where I like to be.
Yes.
And so that's to me,
I love that.
having
It's so
kindness is up.
powerful.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
so
Having kindness is
powerful.
up there.
Check your energy, ladies. Check your energy before you walk into the room. Like,
Yeah,
show
absolutely.
up knowing what it is that you're intending for that conversation, or for that experience that you're going through, and always attempt to leave the best impression on people, because you don't know
Yes.
when you're going to see them again, and you don't know what they're going through, and you don't want to leave a sour taste in people's mouths. Word travels quickly, and also just, it's a testament to character. It helps you to build your character.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kindness is like, it's not hard to do, to just be kind to someone and just to be respectful
Yes.
and nice and inviting. You're not losing anything. You're not
Yes.
losing anything by
Yes.
doing it.
It's a
So I just
fact.
try to stay in that space all the time. Yeah.
I love your energy. So,
Thank you.
final question. Final question, sadly, because I feel like we could talk forever. But
Girl, this is a
um,
whole like session. Okay.
this is like therapy for us. We need a safe
Yes,
event
that's what I'm
sometimes.
feeling. I'm
You know.
like, we are getting it together. We are figuring it out.
Yes, indeed. So, what can we expect from you in the future? What projects are you working on now that you're excited about, and where can people reach you for your services?
Yes. So one, I'm very excited about the launch of our new website, Mezzo Agency. Like I said, we launched 3 years ago, and obviously it's taken off. So, I've had to make a few changes in our business model to be able to fit the needs of so many independents as well as established creatives. So we have a new website that's coming that's going to be bringing a lot of opportunities on the licensing and sync side that I'm so excited about. And then we also have a merch line that's dropping that will be empowering and also a part philanthropic. I say, we're going to be connecting with some charities that support, or some organizations rather, that support the lives of creators, to make sure that our merch has purpose and a dope connection and a movement behind it. In addition to that, I have a course that's coming for those they're not able to pull up on me in Atlanta, and book a one-on-one session, but they still want me at their disposal, to be able to learn at their leisure when they have the time. I am doing a course that will be something that's kind of ongoing, so that I can have more connection with those who are really serious about, getting their business together, understanding all the different intricacies and the changes that are happening literally every day, as it pertains to how they get paid and knowing their rights and the shifting with everything that's going on in legislation right now and all of that. So that course will be able to provide all of that substance, from teaching the basics on up to more some, upper level type, things that we do in the business of publishing. And then, we're going to be moving to a new space soon. I'm very, very excited. I don't know exactly when this is going to air, but by the time it airs, we will probably be in another space. So we're going to be moving on Peachtree Street. And I'm so happy about that. So right now we're more of in a lofty type vibe of a facility, but it's obviously much more than I need. Right now, I need to really scale the business up because we're opening up multiple offices all over the country.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
Now, do you see why I said she got big boss energy, y'all? I was not playing with y'all, okay? She did not come to play with y'all. All right?
Not today.
She's expanding across country. Do you understand? That's a lot of work. That's a hustle and a grind.
It does. You hit it on the head. Like, it takes a lot of work, and sometimes you have to really make some fiscally responsible decisions. The situation that I had prior to, it didn't work out, and I'm cool with that. But I've had to really, and shout out to my CFO. She is amazing. Shout out to Octavia. She has really stayed on top of me with just knowing my numbers and knowing, okay, Tami, your company is offering these services to writers and producers, and that's great. But you still have a payroll, you still have employees that have to be paid. You still have software and marketing and all this type of stuff that you have to allot budgets for. And you're not necessarily a major, but you're functioning and doing some of the same things that a lot of the major companies are doing. So you're stepping in with the big dogs. You got to make decisions that are going to be. Thank you, girl. Thank you so much. Yeah, so she's like, look, you got to look at it for what it is. What are your numbers? The amount of money that the company is bringing in, that's great. But it also, if you're trying to scale the business, some things you may have to be conservative on for the next couple of years to pay off debts, or to make sure that you can align a budget for this, and make sure that you have the staff that you need that are qualified, or, that you have programs that can help train and provide more jobs for people in your community. And you make sure you don't lose yourself as a CEO. You still have to evolve and, build bigger relationships with partners, have strategic partnerships and all that type of stuff. So that takes time. It takes resources. Obviously, your overhead, you got to take care of that as well if you're going to be opening up different offices in other cities. So it's a lot of stuff that I'm working on that I'm so excited about. It is a lot on top of, managing a very great, healthy, loving relationship with my man and then my daughter. And so I'm just at this point, I'm like, look, it's time to make some very good, well thought out strategic decisions, because we just don't have room for anything less. So that's what I'm excited about. And then if anyone wants to follow me on social media, I make it very easy for you. I'm on social media at Tami LaTrell on all platforms. TamiLaTrell.
Amazing. Well, I am just so honored to have been able to have this conversation with you and to get to know more about your journey.
So am I.
Honestly, this was an experience for me. So I'm taking it in, and I'm sure many of the listeners are too. Very inspired by you. And
thank you so much for creating a space for me. Like,
Of
thank you
course.
for allowing me to, to share this experience and be a part of your platform. I really appreciate it. And whenever you and the A girl, we gotta have
I will tap in. I
A
will
girl, we
tap
gotta do
in.
something.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Tami. Everyone go check her out, as she said, on her platforms. And we'll see you on the next episode.
All right.
Remember, stay positive, inspired, and true to yourself. Go out there and kill it. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.